Hour number 2 of the show here on your Friday. Good to be with you. Matt Patrick here, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. You've heard me talk about how I have been here now almost 14 years, and we have never had a more powerful lineup of hosts on this station in my entire existence. It is absolutely sensational. From Santita Jackson in the morning, running all the way into the evening hours. It is great. One of our evening hosts is Patti Vasquez out of WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. She's kind enough to join us today. And with big news, because we're moving your show. Your show is now going to be at 9 o'clock weeknights right here on AM 950. So I'm very happy to it's great because we're going to have you between Rick and the Ghost Box Radio guys. So you're going to be before they start looking for the Bigfoots and the Sasquatches and the aliens. So that's good.
Well, I was so excited to do Ghost Box a couple months ago because I'm fascinated by the supernatural and ghost stories. I love all that stuff.
Oh, I'm
excited. Thank you.
I have Greg on the air. Greg has to set me straight half the time. So are you sure it wasn't, I don't know, another animal in the wild? You know, I'm kind of one of those jerks.
Sure. Hey, that's healthy, too. I have a great friend who's a regular on my show, Adam Selzer, who he does ghost tours, but it's more from the sort of idea of doing like history aspects to it. Like he'll do cemetery tours, but he's on Netflix right now on how to be a mob boss. Have you seen this documentary?
No,
they got all these talking heads.
No.
It's amazing. So he does the whole Al Capone segment. So he does a lot of like this really fascinating history of Chicago, but through the guise of like, here's what's supposed to be haunted and here are these creepy cemeteries.
Well, okay.
So it's really fun.
I just talked to the Guthrie Theater.
Anyway.
I just talked to the Guthrie Theater up here. They got the Christmas Carol going on, a Christmas Carol over there. What is in Chicago? What are some of the every holiday season you have to do blank? What is it in Chicago?
In Chicago, the Lincoln Park Zoo lights are amazing. That's the thing I have to do every year. And well, actually, I've got a few. The Museum of Science and Industry has like Christmas trees decorated from around the world. Oh, I have to toss up between those two. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that sounds nice. I mean, it's nice. I've lived in rural America. I've lived out there, and there's a lot of fun out there. But when you get into a major city, some of these cities are just fantastic on the holidays because it is bright, it's shiny, and let's face it, it's dark out right now. The sun goes down way too early. It comes up way too late. It's nice to have all the lights.
It is. It's fun. I think a little bit of both. I dated a boy who lived in Jacksonville, Illinois. Kind of a small, it's a bigger rural town. And I love the coziness too of like, the communities and people coming in from their farms and gathering too. That was always fun. I have to say though, like our whole skyline lights up. I think they do this in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where the high rises have like the festive lighting, whether it's blue and white or green and red. I love all that too. It's magnificent.
Oh, it is nice. Hey, it's one person we'll need to get a Christmas gift for is George Santos. He's kind of feeling glum right now.
A pair of Ferragamos, maybe.
Well, when you screwed up so bad, you're in the same category as Confederates. They wanted him gone, and I have to admit, there was a part of me that was wondering if they would actually do it, but they got rid of him. He is no longer in the U.S. House.
Well, I love his exit. He's like, I'm going to get you all. I've got the tea on I'm going to spill the tea. I've got domestic violence and fraud. And, so I don't know if that's what took them longer, and they just had to figure out how to shield themselves with whatever dirt he's going to fling at them. I don't know. Oh,
I think he is. I think Santos, when he said reality show host or contestant or personality, I think he realizes he has no other future outside of that, so he'll be the train wreck, and I think he's going to embrace that, and completely, which is great for us because, I guarantee there's going to be a lot of dirt on some Republicans that are probably going to come on out, but it is, once again, the sign that you and we both have talked about is that, it's the inferior quality of your standard Republican politician today. It's amazing how bad these guys are at this point.
Oh, it really is. And I don't know which legislator it was. A Republican was saying that his family, he and a family member were both frauded out of a bunch of money because of that credit card, like every, monthly billing.
Yeah.
So apparently if it happened to somebody else or it didn't, attack his family, he wouldn't have cared. I think that was, where was that guy before today making those claims that he had been, cheated out of money? But yeah, it is absolutely astounding to me that here you have a guy who actually hasn't been convicted yet. They want to get rid of him because he's such a burden to them. And yet the big guy's got, 91 indictments, 91 charges against him?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well,
it's absolutely insane.
And you said something there which is just so spot on. How come you guys just can't do this? How come you guys just go out there and say, that guy's trash, he needs to go? Why is it always after you've retired or you announce you're not running again, then all of a sudden you find your spine?
Yeah. Oh, it's because it has nothing to do with serving the American people.
Yep.
We know that every single time a Republican wins the White House, and what we hear coming from those chambers, it's never about doing what's right for people, making sure that they're happy, healthy, and safe. It's all about power and protecting their special interests. That's it.
Yeah, it is, it is such a grift on all levels that even when they themselves are ripped off, they don't care. I've been amazed. I've watched it with the Minnesota Republican Party. I mean, they're still $400,000 in debt. I mean, this is a party you probably didn't know this. So about 8 or 9 years ago, the trucks rolled up to the Republican headquarters in Minnesota to evict them. They had to write out, so they had to make a quick call and get someone to scratch out a check to basically keep them in there. That's another element, if we can say. The amount of Republicans who talk about fiscal responsibility, but my God, how many of them can't balance their own checkbooks to save their caboose? Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and the thing about that, too, is we see, I don't know if you watched, I didn't get a chance to see all of it, but the debate with DeSantis and Newsom. Yeah. Yeah, the idea, he's talking about how Florida has a surplus and we have the best economy, and it is coming at such a tremendous cost to the people of Florida, whether it's people with disabilities, people who are, perhaps getting older and need some support. Government is not supposed to run at a profit. If you have a surplus, it means that you are, not serving your constituents. You are not helping people. No, and considering the two things. One, how bad just that, and there's a lot of things in Florida we can talk about that are bad. The healthcare system down there is atrocious, and you can't get your house insured down there anymore. Yes. You can sit there all day long and talk about how much surplus you got. One hurricane's going to absolutely cripple you, and that's when you come hat in hand to the rest of the country and say, you need to help us. And I'm like, okay, first thing, get rid of DeSantis. Exactly. Well, that's what I didn't even know till a few years ago is how much of a donor state places like Illinois and Minnesota and mostly blue states end up having to, because Florida doesn't have an income tax, because they can't withstand, as you mentioned, a big storm, and we have to send federal funding down there. And yet the same Republicans would vote against other states, blue states, whether it's a fire in California or, other tornadoes in Wisconsin or something. They'll vote no to that. It's just, they never have the best interests of people, of human beings in general, at heart. Well, you remember in Kentucky when those horrible tornadoes went down there and ripped apart that state, and Biden goes down there. And he's there, and here it is. Your community is devastated. Here he is with the federal government's checkbook saying, how much do you guys need? And still some idiot can't help themselves, start screaming, let's go, Brandon. And you just sort of say to yourself, how broken – and the good thing is there were conservatives that were so upset and angry at that moment that they finally woke up, that finally that kind of shook them awake that maybe this is not the best path. But the reality is they've got this brainwashed voter base on the MAGA side that just they can't help themselves. Here's a guy to help you and help your community, help you, everyone get back on their feet, and you can't help yourself. You still have to insult them. It is really something to marvel at, the depth of, I guess, disassociation. And I don't know if it's just sheer hatred, having to own the libs. Really believing that people are coming, whether they're coming for your guns, they're coming for your child sexuality, they're coming for the Bible, all these different things. Like, the idea that they want to have prayer in school but not feed kids a school lunch. I mean, make that make sense. None of it.
it is a tremendous amount of delusion. And I don't know. I mean, like, some people seem to snap out of it, like you mentioned. Some people are like, see it in real time and go, wait a minute. But it's not enough to make a difference. It really isn't.
Well, a lot of their Bibles don't have the Gospel of Matthew in there, because that's pretty straightforward. You guys, you just don't want to. Oh, okay, there. Hey, Patti Vasquez once again joining us at 9 o'clock, starting on Monday, right here in the evenings on AM 950. What?
And people are going to be listening to you here in Chicago. We're super excited about that. So congratulations for joining us.
I'm very excited. Let's put it this way.
Yes.
This is, I feel, a WCPT is where you're at down there. That is brethren territory. This is okay. This is where I want to be. It's these kind of lineups, these kind of radio stations where, the common sense is coming through. Because I was going to ask you, how about this? What are we going to do with Wisconsin? You're on one side, I'm on the other side. What is going? That used to be the worst thing about them used to be the Packers fans, but now they're just this delusional nutbaggery of far rightism that I don't care that I don't care that the Republican policies have pretty much wiped out the dairy industry in Wisconsin. I'm still voting Republican. I cannot understand. We need to fix Wisconsin. And you can go in from the south side. I'll come in from the west side.
Right. I agree. Every week we talk to Dan Schaefer. He writes the Recombobulation area, so he covers everything Wisconsin. And I should introduce you. But I try to have him explain it to me every single week. I don't know if you saw that their speaker, DeVos, when they called a special session to tackle the issue of child care, right, because he didn't want to fund it. The Republicans didn't want to fund it. And he went down to Brazil. I'm not kidding you. When they were supposed to be in special session, he was like, oh, yeah, I've got this conference I have to go to. Okay.
In Brazil.
In Brazil. It's all in the gerrymandering. I mean, because the majority of Wisconsinites support women's right to choose. The majority of Wisconsinites support, fair maps. They support regulations on guns. It is just the way they've gerrymandered it in order to maintain control. That's really the bottom line.
Well, and we've
got to break through that.
And here's another thing I'll put on this, okay? Because usually with statewide races, the Democrats win there. You got to call it out where the problem is. The state Democratic Party over there, the last election cycle, did not run two candidates in U.S. House races. Did not even run them. Which just that avalanche is right down the ticket. That all of a sudden you make it much more difficult for any state house or assembly person to win in those districts. You got to take it seriously. One of the reasons why Minnesota kicks ass is because we take every race seriously, and even in districts where it's plus 20 red, you're going to get a DFL candidate out there, and we're going to run. I know Illinois, you do the same thing down there. Chicago is a powerhouse for us. You can't just go out there and put a half complete game plan together and think you're going to get good results. I mean, you're right. Gerrymandering, the nefarious Republican agenda, but it also is there are unforced errors on the Democratic side in Wisconsin that need to be addressed.
Absolutely, it is. And we have a friend. I don't know if you're familiar with Jess Piper. She's a dirt road Deb.
Yep.
Out of Missouri.
Yeah, I know
She's
Jess.
Amazing. Yeah, and she talks about making sure you have challengers in every single race, and you're absolutely right, because it elevates what we are fighting for. If people know that they're not alone, first of all, in supporting women's autonomy or supporting, fair labor practices, all these things that really, I think the majority of Americans do support. If you're not going to have that conversation, if you're going to let someone just have the seat, then we're not going to move the ball down the field for sure.
Well, and I just was bringing this up with the Santos vote. You have 3 Republicans who voted to keep Santos in office. I would be down in Minnesota 1, Minnesota 7 right now, hammering away. Now, Minnesota 7 is Michelle Fischbach. It's the most red district in the state. But if you can pick up 1 or 2 of those Minnesota House seats there, that's a huge win. And trust me, even Republicans don't like George Santos. That's a stinger that you can go out there and go on the attack with. It just is. That's what you need to do. You can't. There is no friends. There's no off season. There's. You've got to go out there and fight every single day to try to basically to win this, because it just is democracy on the line at this point.
Yeah. Well, and that's the hardest thing to get across, right? Because people say we're using those words too freely. Like this, it's not fascism. It's not dictatorship. And like, do you see what they have planned for 2025?
Oh yeah,
firing people who aren't, pledging allegiance to the new administration. That they want to imprison, hundreds of thousands of immigrants or deport them. The things that they have planned, I don't know. I guess it seems like too far off, because look, we were patted on the head for decades. Oh, don't worry, Roe v. Wade isn't going anywhere. We saw committee after committee hearing with appointees to the Supreme Court saying, no, it's law of the land. We're not going to change. We're not going to contest it. And here we are. Mm-hmm. Here we are with women being charged. In Ohio, a woman is being charged because she had a miscarriage at home, and they're saying it's a form of manslaughter. That and this is where we are.
Well, and the Republicans are so scared of it. I mean, that's the last off-year election we just had. In Virginia, they tried that new moderate abortion tone, and it still did not win. I mean, it is something there. You don't take away people's rights and expect them to take the light version of it back. You've got to be able to, and that's on the table. Tanks rolling down the street. They want to build concentration camps. The Trump administration, I can get it. Some people are upset about certain things, but if you don't see where we're going with the fascism trend on the right side at this point, everyone votes and everyone votes Democrat because that's the only way you're going to save democracy at this point.
Right. Look, you live to fight another day by saving democracy and voting for Biden. And I'm so tired of all the debates. I love what Biden has accomplished.
Yep.
He wasn't my candidate in 2020. That was not who I would have voted for. But by the time he made it to the primary in Illinois, he was already the leader in the pack. But I'm impressed. He's surpassed whether it's because of his experience, whether he's surrounded himself with all the right people. He's making all the right moves, and I am riding this horse. I like what Newsom said yesterday. It's like, I don't care if he's 100. I'd take him at 100 than you at right now to DeSantis. That was a nice line. He's delivered. That infrastructure bill is a once in a generation sort of thing that we got done. Yeah.
And we forget he took over after Trump, and there was zero plan in place to deal with COVID. He took over COVID as it was beating us all down, and he was able to basically turn things around on that level. He has been a very good president. He's got my vote easily. This is not a question because I can see what's on the other side of the aisle at this point.
Absolutely. And I get that people aren't feeling it. I get that all the improvements, all the investments have not yet had a day-to-day impact when we see that grocery prices are so high. I want to know how much of the price escalation is also due to price gouging.
Oh.
How much of it is, a lot of these companies saying, oh, well, if they were willing to pay that, then we don't have to bring the prices back down. We'll just leave them there. That's the new baseline.
A reminder, this is what I'll say this, and you're going to hear this in Chicago. I say this all the time. It's not inflation if corporate profits are at record levels. That's just plain old-fashioned greed. It's inflation does not exist. You cannot have those two things together. It's not inflation if you're having massive corporate profits. It is just that's the companies basically robbing us blind because they got so incensed that we got COVID money as civilians. They want that money back, and so they're gouging us.
Yeah, I agree. And I struggle every single day when Chicago is pointed to as being this, I think after you saw a couple of days ago, there was a committee hearing on gun violence, and I can't remember the guy's name from Louisiana, asking her about how come it's a open shooting range in Chicago, and like every day. And here's the thing: a lot of the street crimes, a lot of the violence is because people have to develop in marginalized communities their own kind of economy, and street crimes cost about $16 billion. Some studies will be different, but it's over $400 billion to $1 trillion in white collar crimes, whether it's tax evasion or wage theft. I mean, it runs the gamut, and it creates the street crime. But people would rather point fingers at people who are poor and disenfranchised than they will at the corporate power and the billionaires. It's insane.
I loved how Kennedy got put back on his heels by that witness who basically said, oh, no, the gun crime rate in your own state's much worse than Chicago.
Yeah.
And, he didn't have anything he couldn't get out of that one fast enough. He was stumbling to get out of that one. But it's the truth. They basically create these lies. I get Republicans up here who sit there and vilify the city that they live in. I'm like, you mean my town? Minneapolis, St. Paul is great. Chicago is great. Yeah, there are problems, but it's not. Have you been to some of these other places where you guys say it's wholesome? Don't try that in a small town kind of crap.
Right.
My dear Lord, no. We are doing just fine. But they need their punching bag.
They really do. And I think we've talked since I've been to Minneapolis. I was in Minneapolis in September. Oh, my God. Yes, I think I told you how jealous I am. I love our state capital. Springfield is beautiful. But, man, I really loved your building. And, again, I think Minneapolis, St. Paul, you guys evade those sort of criticisms. I don't know why Chicago they're not pointing fingers at you, calling you all kinds of names, are they? Or am I missing it?
Oh, they do locally, but then I say, but yeah, you guys sure come down for the Vikings game, don't you? That's like, it's like you sure like when Taylor Swift is in town, don't you? All of a sudden you're coming down here, but of course they all come like, I barely survived. It's like, okay, you don't have to come back. We're fine without you. So the next time you're up here, let me know. I'll take you around. We'll go have some fun and get a good meal too. Okay.
Excellent. I would love to.
And I'm going to be down in Chicago coming up here probably in April. So I'll make sure I keep you up to date on that. So once again, Monday night, Patti's show moves to 9 p.m. So you can listen to her at 9 right here on AM 950. And I'm going to be heading down to Chicago, 9 p.m. in Chicago town. You'll hear the 3 o'clock hour of the show down there. So I'm really looking forward to it, Patti.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
I will talk to you very soon. Patti Vasquez, of course, once again, our 9 p.m. starting Monday, 9 p.m. host right here on AM 950. Powerhouse freaking lineup. God, I'm proud to be here. Let's take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.